It's Thursday, February 13th, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we'll be covering on today's episode of the show. It's official. The world's largest smartphone technology convention, MWC, has been canceled in Barcelona due to the threat of the coronavirus. We'll discuss what happened and what the fallout could be. And we'll detail the new purchase from the LA Fire Department, which will put North America's first electric fire truck onto the roads in 2021. It even includes a diesel generator for rapid recharging. Plus, we've got some great guests on the show today, including one that falls right in line with our love of tech for change, as we'll be joined by Umad Khan, the CEO and founder of Iris Vision. And can weather forecasting actually help us to predict the spread of viruses like the flu? We'll be joined by Sherry Backstein of IBM's The Weather Company, who will detail their utilization of Watson Insights to help warn you when influenza is setting in your city. All of this and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. Thank you very much for joining us. Of course, we broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. All will broadcast live across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Dailymotion, Apple News, 2 different mobile apps, a smart television app, and at digitaltrends.com/live. So wherever you're finding us, you can join in the conversations that we get to have, and we do want to hear your opinions, even if we disagree with them sometimes. So please drop those in there, and let's get it started right now. I'm Greg Nibbler, here with Mr. Jeremy Kaplan. Hello, Jeremy.
Greg, it's a pleasure to be here.
It is so nice to have you here. Last time, of course, when you were on the show, you were in New York, but now here in Portland. In studio with
It's great to be here with you. That way I can slap you in person.
It is. Okay, well, see, now this is behind the scenes of
Just
what
like
normally
that.
happens. This is what actually happens with a hardworking morning tech show. All right, let's get going. Let's talk about some tech, though. So let's talk about this. The big news yesterday, and something we've been discussing actually on this show for over a week, and just the impending threat of MWC, the world's biggest smartphone technology convention, being canceled. And just shortly after this show ended yesterday, it was indeed canceled. So MWC not happening this year. This is a huge, huge thing to take place. I mean, that's 100,000 people that come into Barcelona every year. The biggest companies in the world are there debuting their new products, and slowly they've been dropping out kind of like flies. And now MWC just completely saying, we're going to cancel it. It's not worth putting on. Huge ramifications for the city of Barcelona, because it's estimated that it's about a $500 million impact for that city. But it also mitigates that concern of being the epicenter of a giant outbreak of coronavirus.
Yeah, that's not something you want to be associated with, is it?
No. I feel like I feel like this was the right move to make. I mean, just the threat of that, if something had happened, and maybe it would have gone on fine and everything would have been just great, except, minus all the companies that were going to be there. But yeah, that threat of that, I just feel like that was the right choice.
Yeah, absolutely. The risk was just too great. The potential for helping spread a disease that the World Health Organization is saying this is a global health crisis. You don't want to be the one that spreads that.
No.
So the GSMA kept waiting. They were asking the city of Barcelona to declare an emergency. And the problem, let's be clear here, is not the city of Barcelona. There is no problem in the city of Barcelona. The problem is 100,000 people getting together, potentially spreading the disease. One guy coughs, everyone walks home with it.
Right.
Terrible.
And that's the thing, and you could actually have some of these people, the potential is you could be carrying it for 14 days and not know it. And so, who knows?
One of our writers mentioned that. He said, I go home and I take care of my elderly parents, and I don't want to quarantine myself for 14 days because I have to go take care of them.
That's a very good point. Yeah, and that's something that actually everybody who went to that would probably have to worry about. And of course, it's not just Barcelona, but it's just the fact that everybody from all over the world is converging there. And just the potential of that spreading and then taking all back home. Now,
Greg, let's talk about the products that we're not going to see at this show.
That's a big point.
So, in my eyes, a lot of the things that we were waiting for were not super big ones. So, to some extent, we're saying it's okay that we're not going to have this show. I wasn't really anticipating a breakthrough, groundbreaking thing from LG.
Yeah.
What I was anticipating, however, was something from Microsoft. Now, let's be clear here. I don't have any evidence that anything special was coming out from these guys, but they announced that Duo Neo combo, the folding things, a while back. In theory, those are going to come out this year. They just put out a blog post with an SDK. Here's what developers need to know to get familiar with
Yep.
this product, this seemed like it would have been a great stage to debut something like that.
You know, and there's also been those instances where people have been seeing them out. There's been pictures of people using them on, on mass transit. So they're out there in the wild and actually showcasing. I believe there were some updates to them that weren't on them originally when they debuted. So yeah, that does kind of make sense that maybe this could have been when they were going to release this.
If you're a company that had been planning something for MWC, what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, and that's a huge question. I mean, because this is, every major company that's involved in smartphones, minus Apple, is there. And yeah, how are they going to handle all that, all those releases, even if it may not be something that's, like you're saying, groundbreaking? They still have to release their new products. So without that, I mean, are we going to get is each one going to do a live stream? Do their own press conferences?
Let me make
How
a
is it gonna
request
happen?
to the manufacturers of the world. We do not need individual press conferences for all of your things. We just do not. There's already too many of these with the Apples and the Samsungs and the IBMs and the Microsofts and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We don't need another one of these. So we need, there's got to be some other mechanism though, and frankly, I don't know what it is. What is the world going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why, just to reiterate too, this is such a big thing to have this cancel. And going forward, what does this mean? Right now, the coronavirus, and I do want to, of course, address that part, the humanitarian side of it. It is a very dangerous virus, and there's a lot of people suffering from this, and the threat of it going bigger is still there, and there's actually some new statistics that were just released, so it's not going away anytime soon. So looking at it from that side, that's bad, but then also looking at it from going forward, what does this mean for the rest of the year? I mean, until this thing is contained, this could be a threat to pretty much anything.
Yeah, I think if you're a phone manufacturer or any one of the companies that was going to be there, software makers, networking companies, you're looking at the things you were planning on talking about and saying, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
So expect a flood of new events, minor parties, whatever, minor releases over the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to see a lot of stuff, and everyone's just going to be scrambling to figure out what they're doing.
Well, we'll keep you up to date at digitaltrends.com, so follow along right there with anything that happens, any breaking news. We will let you know as more fallout comes out from this and just going forward with the rest of the year. All right, continuing on with some other news, let's talk about Facebook. It's actually been a little bit since we talked about Facebook here, but they are, surprisingly, back in the news now because of some of their policies to stop the spread of fake and false information on their platform, which we all know was a pretty big concern in 2016. We don't need to revisit that, but we all know what happened there. So this is part of what the steps that they're taking to, I guess, in their minds, mitigate some of these concerns. And this is a new fact-checking unit from Reuters that Facebook has hired that will look at the content posted on Facebook and Instagram and identify when it is fake or misleading. So that sounds pretty great. Here's the thing. It's a team of 4 people that are going to be doing this, at least according to the reports that we have. That's a lot of things to go through, a lot of posts to look at in order to discern whether something's fake or misleading with just 4 people. I mean, I can't imagine you can get through too much on Facebook with that.
Yeah, and I'm a little unclear on precisely how much content they're going to be scrolling through and vetting, because you say content on Facebook, look, there's 2 billion people posting content on Facebook. I'm assuming that this is just around the news division, the news content that's posted, and there's a new news hub on Facebook, but still, there are hundreds of publishers and news outlets posting information to that hub. 4 people.
Yeah.
It's like saying, here's the ocean, here's a pebble, blip, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, and looking at it from that standpoint too, so even if you do have that, another couple of things that came out about this will not have an effect on the political ad side of things, which Mark Zuckerberg has said. They're not going to censor the ads. Essentially, what people put up and pay for is going to be there, whether it's correct or not. They're not going to actually fact check it. So that's, I think, another key point to this is I feel like that's where a lot of the false information would be coming from anyway. But that's a tough position.
Whoa, hang on. You think politicians are going to be creating a lot of the false information?
What?
Go figure.
Shocking.
Look, I'm going to say something controversial here because I think a lot of people disagree with me about this. I think Mark Zuckerberg is actually making the right move here by allowing politicians to put out false information, which sounds weird, but bear with me for a second. Politicians should not put out false information. This is a bad thing. Donald Trump, we're looking at you. You have a tendency to lie. That said, when politicians do put out fake information, Facebook kind of has an obligation to let them say things, and then it is up to the news organizations of the world to say, that is wrong, this is a lie, here's the truth. Can Facebook do more to prevent that? Maybe, I don't know, but I feel like he's right in saying, look, they're going to say what they're going to say. My job at Facebook is not to vet that stuff for you.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting standpoint to have too, because you're right. Whose job is it, I guess, when it comes to
Whose job is it?
And also, it's a site, and advertising is how you pay for things. And granted, I know Facebook's going to get no sympathy for their gajillion dollars that they make, but still, this is also a policy that could apply to other platforms as well.
Facebook has a ton of responsibility that they have abdicated. There are a lot of other areas for them to take charge, to take a stance, to do the right thing. I just that one issue, political ads, I don't know. I feel like that's not the biggest thing for them to be fretting about.
How do you feel about, and just getting your opinion on this, their stance versus Twitter's stance, where Twitter's just kind of banning all of it?
The problem is there aren't any good answers here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that there are politicians blatantly lying is a huge problem in our
That's
political
really what
life.
the issue is,
That's the issue here. The fact that political discourse has become so loaded and is just something we're all kind of like, can I just get away from that these days? I don't need to see any more of that.
Yeah.
That's a problem too. If the conversation were politer, were nicer, I think we'd all be happier.
Right.
But that's not an answer either. So look, there aren't any good answers.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one to be in. But definitely, I think throughout this year, we'll see some different responses as we get closer and closer to the actual U.S. election. This is an issue that's going to be with us all year long. So stay tuned, like I said, at Digital Trends.
But for the short term, 4 guys from Reuters are going to make that news a lot better. We think. Who knows?
We'll try. I mean, yeah, we'll see what it does. See what Reuters can do for that. Moving on here, we've got a couple other topics to cover, and this one I think is just kind of cool, and also is an indication of this further proliferation of electric vehicles everywhere. And now we're talking about emergency vehicles, because the LA Fire Department has just completed their purchase of an all-electric fire truck. This is a pretty big deal, and actually, it's pretty cool in my opinion. So we're taking a look at it right there. It's from an Austrian manufacturer, I believe, Rosenbauer, who apparently has been making equipment for firefighting for decades. And this is since 1866, actually. So they've been making firefighting equipment. And this is their push into this. There's some other fire departments, I believe, around the world who have already purchased some of these. It doesn't roll out until 2021, but they did have one to test. And apparently they've been driving around LA. They were doing donuts in the Dodger Stadium with this thing. So it sounds like the firefighters are very happy with this.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I think a lot of those heavier industrial machines, vehicles like that, probably less fuel efficient than some of the cars we have out there. So the ability to move some of those more towards the electric side, getting a lot greener, sounds like a great win.
Yeah, and we're taking a look at it. It's a couple of things with it. It's got 2 batteries, so charge capacity of 100 kilowatt hours. They said that it also comes with
AAAs, right?
Yep, all AAAs.
The little
whole lot of them. Yep, two AAAs. Then they've got an onboard diesel generator, which is able to recharge the batteries on location. So if they do need to, I mean, you don't want a fire truck running out of juice if it's got in the middle of going somewhere. So they have some safety features for that. They're also outfitting the fire station with some rapid chargers, so it's always fully charged at all times in there. But I mean, again, just this year, seeing all these different electric vehicles come out, we have electric pickups coming out, Hummers in the game now, fire trucks in the game. I mean, this is something that's going to be a definite big trend, I feel like, this year.
You mentioned running out of juice, and I think one of the interesting things here is the extent that this can change public perception, because there is still a lot of range anxiety among consumers and the public at large about how effective are these devices. These vehicles. The fact that a fire truck is one, and they're saying we're not really worried about range anxiety, and this is a fire truck. Emergency response, it's got to be there. It can't break down halfway there. It can't run out of fuel or electricity. And they're saying, look, well, this is not an issue for us. I think that should help sway public opinion a little bit. Consumers shouldn't be worried either. Look, these things are great.
Definitely. And you can read more about that, too, at digitaltrends.com. So follow up with it. Pretty cool story and some pretty cool video that goes along with it, too. I know we're about out of time to get to a break, but we do have one other trending story here at the top, and this one is just kind of taking off this morning, and it's neat. So it has to do with a former space engineer, and what she has done is created her own phone. So, in this era of flip phones coming back, what about rotary dial phones? That's what we're talking about with this, a rotary dial cell phone that she created at home. She's actually put the plans for it out so anybody can actually build one. It's using an old rotary from some specific phone that she found, a Western Electric trim line, I guess.
Ooh,
we all
my
know
favorite.
those.
That was a good one.
One of the best ones that you can get. And and then using a couple of circuit boards, and then also 3D printing the case itself. But it does work. It actually works as a rotary dial phone.
And what's impressive is this isn't some small hack. She created some custom circuit boards and had them custom ordered from some factory in China. And what you're seeing there is a a flexible screen that she had custom built to give you some of those notifications, sort of pager style. If you remember back in the day of back in the day of rotary dials, back in the day of pagers. So amalgamating a couple of old technologies into one there.
Right, and yeah, I think it's pretty cool. She said that she was mainly doing it because she gets annoyed texting, so she doesn't want to text. So this is her excuse not to do it. So
the only thing I'd say about this, I think it's going to slow down her ability to make phone calls, though, because if you remember these things, right? You dial a 0, you're going all the way around. You wait for the thing to come all the way back. You dial a 9, it goes all. It's just slow.
Yeah.
Push buttons are easier, and digital is just a little faster there.
There's a reason. There's a reason.
But
that
it's
they couldn't
cool.
It's still cool,
This is
though.
really cool.
It's a cool engineering feat. So you could take more, take a look at that. We'll have something up on that as well. So that is a pretty cool story. But we've got more coming up here on Digital Trends Live, and we're actually going to our New York studio next because we have Lisa Marie Segarra on, who's going to be talking about some big news in gaming, keeping us up to date with that. We've got some other great guests that are going to be joining us. A lot to talk about. We're also going to be comparing the Galaxy Buds Plus with the Apple AirPods Pro. I believe I have that right. It's all going to be here. Caleb Dennison is going to be explaining that, so that's coming up here on the show too. But before we go to break, Jeremy, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
As always.
It's been a pleasure.
It is. And thank you, everybody, for joining us here for this. So, again, we are live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. So hit that subscribe button. We'll be back in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining us. Hit that subscribe button, get the notifications when we go live, and join in the conversations that we get to have. But right now, I'm excited for our conversations because we're going to talk about gaming and get up to date with some of the big things that are happening with that. And to do so, from our New York studio, we have Lisa Marie Segarra joining us. Hello, Lisa Marie. What should we talk about first?
Hey, so there's a lot of news in gaming, but first I really want to talk about streaming. So there are a lot of players right now between Twitch and Mixer, but I think that some people are really starting to count Twitch out, and they're wrong. Stream Elements just came out with some data on the state of streaming, and Twitch is on top. It is still basically untouchable. In January alone, it had over 800 million hours watched, which is crazy. And if you don't think that, it's actually more than twice of any other competitor. So when Ninja and Shroud going to Mixer, like, it's still not touching them at all. But we do have some other shifts. YouTube gaming is picking up a lot. It had its best growth month. Still a lot less, but they had like 358 million hours watched in January. So they're definitely starting to make some plays, and that's also going to be really big because they're owned by Google, and Google has Stadia coming out. So they really are pushing this integration with YouTube gaming, with their cloud gaming. So if YouTube gaming is picking up, that's only going to be beneficial. And it's kind of funny because basically all of these companies have these massive tech giants behind them. So Twitch is owned by Amazon, Mixer is owned by Microsoft, and of course YouTube gaming, YouTube, Google. So it's really funny to see how all of these are playing out. Facebook gaming also owned by Facebook, of course, is trying to make some plays, and they're all picking up a lot. But the biggest takeaway is that more people than ever are watching streaming games. So it's really still a fight to see who will win out. But right now, it's still Twitch.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's your point there at the end is 100% accurate. Just how much gaming watching is becoming a big thing. I mean, even looking at esports, I mean, how many billions of dollars are involved in that now? And everybody want to get in the game. Like you said, each one is owned by a massive corporation who's all plugging their money in. It's kind of like the television streaming wars, but the gaming streaming wars. You know, it's all that same battlefield when it comes down to it of getting people to watch their programming. So that's interesting, though. Twitch still definitely on top. A big takeaway there. Let's go ahead and talk about an actual game. I know for Pokemon fans, there's been a lot of news around something that's been coming out. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so Pokemon Home is out now, and fans are pretty excited. This really brings the entire franchise up to the new generation. We're seeing a lot more cloud-based saving and things like that, and they're really starting to take advantage of a Switch Online, and we're finally seeing all of that come together. We're also seeing more integration with, apps and things like that. I mean, GTA 5 started having an app, which was really just for fun. Fallout 4 also had its own app, but now we're seeing more and more games do it, and in a way that's really functional, and that adds a whole lot more of what you can do. So for anyone that wants to know, there are 2 tiers, and one is free if you want to dip your toes in a bit. And so for that, you can store 30 Pokemon. You can start trading with other people, but there are still a lot of limitations. You can't host things like trade rooms, which basically open up trading in a much bigger way. You can still trade, though, so not too bad. And you can only trade 1 Pokemon at a time. But if you get the paid version, you can store up to 6,000 Pokemon. So you will never, ever, ever run out of, well, maybe you will, but you probably won't ever run out of places to store all of your favorite Pokemon. This is also a big thing. It works across its different apps and everything, so that's really exciting. You can store 6,000, like I said. You can also host trade rooms, which is really exciting and really social. You can also place up to 3 Pokemon for trade at once. And I have to say, the pricing is really not bad. You can either pay $3 a month, pretty cheap, or $5 for every 3 months. And if you want to just get the whole year, it's $16. Pretty affordable, and especially if you're getting that free tier, and just being able to store 6,000 extra Pokemon alone, I think is worth it.
I was going to say 6,000. If you're running out of space after that, well, I mean, congratulations. You've done it. You've made it to that level. Well, so and we've got more info on that at Digital Trends too. Okay, this is something, the next thing we want to talk about, I really want to get your opinion on this. So you mentioned Google Stadia earlier. We're talking about cloud gaming, cloud-based services. And during that Samsung Galaxy Unpacked event, they talked about their partnership with Microsoft for bringing essentially some Xbox gaming onto this specific phone. Looking at those kind of partnerships, how big of a deal is that Samsung announcement? Because we were trying to debate it here. We weren't sure if, that's cool, but is this like a game-changing kind of thing? Or is this something that just kind of adds into the mix of the other services?
I think it's way too early to say it's game-changing. It's also not that surprising. I mean, Microsoft was working with Samsung already. They've worked together quite a bit. Most recently for their Galaxy Note 10 and 10 Plus, they had a whole gaming hub that they added. So they're really making their mobile apps and games much higher quality, and to do that you need someone like Microsoft, which does PC gaming and obviously Xbox, to come in and punch it up a bit. So they've already worked together, but I have to say, xCloud, which is Microsoft's new cloud gaming system, it's also going to iOS. So one is getting access and the other is getting slightly more access. So I don't really think it's that game changing. Basically, after this week, what we know is that if anyone wants to try xCloud, you'll probably be able to. I mean, you can do it on the 2 biggest, phone systems out there. And also you have your PC and Xbox. So it really just means more access, and they're kind of throwing a bone to some Android users, but I don't think it's that game changing. It's still really exciting. It's definitely a positive step to see Microsoft and Samsung continuing to work together. It means that there's still something there, and there's still a lot more mobile investment, which is always good.
Well, okay. Yeah, that's why I really want to get your opinion on that, because to me, it seems like that's another area where we have a lot of competition that's kind of coming in. You know, you had Google Stadia launch with their cloud-based platform, but then seeing these other ones come in. But like you said, I guess Microsoft has already been doing this for a while, so it's not that surprising going forward.
Yeah. And on Google Stadia, they actually have some news this morning. They just announced some new games that are coming to Stadia, finally, which is pretty exciting because they've been really, really quiet about what games are coming, which might be kind of big. Unfortunately, they're not that exciting. It's just very ho-hum, and so it kind of feels like a letdown to wait on this announcement, like what's coming, what's going to be out, is it going to be worth buying? And now there's still time to see how it'll play out, but right now I personally am not getting too thrilled about anything. We also had some kind of a bummer news. NVIDIA's GeForce, which is a pretty affordable cloud gaming and basically works with like your Steam library or games that you already have, so you don't have to worry about what's compatible or what's on the system, did announce that Activision Blizzard is pulling out, so you won't be able to play their games, unfortunately. Yeah, and I was really looking forward to GeForce. It's, like I said, very affordable and probably the most accessible, so that's not great, but we do have xCloud coming to iOS, and Samsung's going to get a lot more access. Stadia is still around. I have to say, though, all of this news, the back and forth, just makes me think that it's going to become a fad. I've said this before, but I think Google Stadia is going to go the way of Google Glass. Google's going to be really excited about it for a while and then realize that there's not much to it. They didn't invest enough, and so not enough people are buying in, and they're going to drop it, and that'll be it. And we'll be sitting here wondering in 5 years, whatever happened to Stadia? And I mean, if you look at Nintendo and PlayStation, they're kind of sitting back a little bit. Nintendo has done some tests for their Japanese market on cloud gaming, and PlayStation did that partnership with Microsoft, but they're clearly not ready to pull in a lot of resources into the cloud market. And I think that's smart. They're hedging their bets and letting everyone else duke it out to see what works and what doesn't. And if it does work, then they can get in after they know, what's successful, what model do people like, what technology is the best. And I think they're probably the smartest players in this game right now.
Wow. So Google Stadia, though, going to the Google graveyard within the next 5 years. So there it is. There's the claim right here. There's the statement. We'll replay this in 5 years from now. But Lisa Marie, thank you so much for joining us. Always fun, and there's so much happening in the world of gaming. So we've got everything at digitaltrends.com. Everybody can go there and follow up with it. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, let's continue on with the show. So always interesting stuff. We could have conversations about that for a long time. But we have more to talk about. So we've got to get to a break because up next, we've got, Ahmad Khan, who is the CEO and founder of Iris Vision. I'm really excited to talk about this because this is a device that can help people with low visibility, low eyesight, increase that. And so that's something that's really, really fascinating. We're going to talk about. Let's get to a break. Let's get Ahmad on. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining us. We love to have conversations about technology here. And in particular, it's always fun to talk about tech that can change people's lives or improve them. And that is what we're going to be talking about right now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Joining us, we have Ahmad Khan, who's the CEO and founder of Iris Vision. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
This topic today is really of interest to me. I have some friends who actually suffer from some of the things that we're going to be talking about, so I really am excited to hear from you about this. But to give everybody just kind of the backstory and the understanding, you're the founder of this company. Can you talk about what it is and what it is that you saw out there that you wanted to change that inspired you to create Iris Vision?
Very good. So there are millions of people around the world who have various different eye conditions that lead to the symptoms of low vision. And low vision is defined as, severe vision impairment that cannot be corrected by wearing glasses or contact lenses. So we wanted to build the technology that could help this, community of people and help them live independently and be able to be more productive and be more social once again.
And it's such an important thing to factor in, because I think for a lot of people, they don't understand how big of a slice of the population this is, how many millions of people do suffer from this. And so you saw this issue out there and you wanted to do something for it. Let's talk about the tech. So what kinds of solutions were there available and what makes yours different when it comes to that?
Sure. So there has been technology available to the legally blind community out there, but the technology hasn't changed much over the last 2 decades. And it was more stationary. We used the virtual reality hardware that Samsung builds, and using the virtual reality headset combined with our knowledge of the visual process, we were able to create a solution, one system that helps them do 9 out of 10 things that they want to do. It's a system that helps them, get out of the house, go shopping with family members, be able to do things of, activities of daily living, such as writing checks or reading a newspaper, watching TV, etc. One system that provides them multiple uses.
And looking at the headset right here too, it looks kind of like a virtual reality setup, like the standard headset that you would normally see. And now, can you walk us through what exactly we're looking at there? So is the headset itself customized? What kind of devices in there? How does it actually work?
So the headset includes a smartphone, which is more like a supercomputer. So the smartphone is mounted into the headset. What it's doing is it's capturing the video or the live feed of the real world. And using our software lenses, we are reverse engineering, the eye condition that's causing legal blindness for the person. So the effect of this is the person who's legally blind is looking through our software lenses at the world, and the end result is they can start to recognize faces. They can start reading and writing once again, and they can start socializing with family members, etc.
That's incredible. You mentioned the smartphone in there. Now, is that a specific one that's proprietary to this system?
Well, we are working with the Samsung Galaxy series smartphones. They are they're one of the best phones that exist.
For sure. So working with the Samsung Galaxy phones, so putting those in there. Now, as far as you mentioned, that people can do 9 out of the 10 things that they normally couldn't do. And that's when you start thinking about low vision, I mean, that's a lot of things that really can affect your daily life and make it, this could improve that. So as far as the processing, now you mentioned that they could even walk around and go shopping. Is this something you would be wearing at all times, or do you put it on specifically when you need to see things?
So they don't necessarily walk around while wearing it, but they will on to perform specific tasks. For example, we have children, there's a 12-year-old who uses Iris Vision in the classroom to look at the whiteboard. We have somebody who is in their 40s, they're able to use Iris Vision to operate a regular computer. And then the gentleman that you see in the video there is a retired veteran. He is using it to look at all of the bills that are coming in. He's taking care of his family, his wife who's going through cancer. He's able to read the pill bottles again and be able to, he's able to prepare meals for both of them.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, and that's just, a small example of things, that people could probably do with that if they're able to have that sight back. One of the things that I know for solutions that have been out there before is it's expensive. And, technology is expensive, and unless it's mass produced, a lot of times it's hard to get it into a range where most people will be able to get it outside of some certain circumstances. But I understand that's something you wanted to tackle with this as well.
Absolutely. So, when we started evaluating the options of implementing science to deliver the technology, it was really important to us to do it in a way that will be able to help a lot of people around the world. Samsung, as a leading manufacturer, has already built smartphones and some of the best consumer technology, including the virtual reality headset. So we decided to leverage existing commoditized hardware that's some of the finest in the world. This way, we're able to just build a software platform to take advantage of technology that's already available around the world. By doing this, we are not only delivering some of the best technology to the legally impaired population, but we're doing it at a fraction of the price of some of the solutions that exist out in the market.
How is this? Is this out in the market right now? Just to clarify for everybody at home too, or how widespread is this? How do people get access to this kind of tech?
Yes, we have several thousand customers out there using Iris Vision every day to live better. It is available. They can go to our website, which is irisvision.com, to learn more about the solution, and they can even place an order directly on our website.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'll definitely be sending somebody to that website to take a look at that. Well, looking at it going forward too, with this kind of tech, and as we're seeing these advancements in technology that can improve lives, and it's always fun to see. We all love our new fancy cameras or new features on the phone, but this is stuff that can actually really help people, and improve lives. Do you see some more advantages with this, or more ways that you can take this tech in the future?
Oh yes, we are very excited. So we announced a partnership with Samsung recently, which is helping us develop the next generation headset. You will see the headset will become lighter and cosmetically, aesthetically more appealing. While Samsung is applying their power at what they do best, the Iris Vision team is busy making more and more value available through the system. For example, we've already launched Alexa integration and the ability for a person not only to see the real world, but start streaming videos from YouTube. And many of our customers are really enjoying features like that because historically they could not access the smartphone or operate the computer properly. So our interface makes that possible for them. We'll be launching a version of Facebook, Netflix, all in the system. And that's not it. Something else that Iris Vision is really proud of doing is that while we have access to this visually impaired population and they're using our system to live a better life every day, we have the information that can help improve their physical and mental health. So we're developing solutions that are helping us learn about the various chronic conditions that these people are dealing with, and we're building digital therapeutic applications that'll help them with improved mental function and physical function as well.
Wow. Also a very important factor, when you think about having some kind of a disability like that. Yeah, the mental health of when it comes down to it. Well, Ahmad, thank you very much for joining us here. This is very interesting, fascinating stuff that you're doing. I'm glad that you're out there working on something like this and, helping to improve some lives, and really appreciate you being here on Digital Trends Live today to talk about it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, so again, Iris Vision. That is really, really fascinating what they're doing. So if you know anybody out there who is suffering from low vision quality, this is something that they need to go check out. I love having these kinds of interviews. But we have more coming up, so we need to get to a break. And coming up next, we have Mr. Caleb Dennison, who's going to join us to talk about, that Samsung announcement that came out last week and the new Galaxy Buds Plus. I believe we're going to have him here in studio. So we're going to talk about that compared to the Apple AirPods Pro or all the AirPods. So we're going to discuss the differences between the two. What does the announcement mean? What does that battery life mean? All that's coming up next. So stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. Again, thanks for joining us here on this Thursday as we walk through some big stories in technology. And certainly this week, there wasn't a lot bigger than the Galaxy Unpacked event, the annual Samsung event, or semi-annual, duo-annual? I don't know what the right word is to say. I'm just saying it's a big event that just happened. Let's get past that part. Let's talk about the Galaxy Buds, the Buds themselves. To do so, I'm Greg Nibbler, here with Caleb Dennison. Hello, Caleb.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good, except for that part. But let's talk about some Buds.
I tracked with you.
You did. You did. Everybody picked up on it.
They do a thing. They have some stuff.
They had an announcement.
We talk about it. That's what goes on.
And now let's talk about it. So
Yeah.
we have in front of us a lot of buds for
We
this
have
bud off.
We have all the buds.
All the buds.
All the buds, man. You know.
What are we looking at here in front of us right now?
So I brought. We're focused on the Samsung Galaxy Buds Plus. These were what were announced yesterday.
Yes.
But to kind of put them in context, I wanted to bring some of the competition out. What you'll notice here, and I actually think these are probably the closest comparison, are the Amazon Echo Buds.
Okay.
Which at about $80 right now actually cost less than the Galaxy Buds Plus, and they're also quite a bit larger. If you can check that out. So again, a wide range of buds that you can look at. I've also got the AirPods 2, the second generation AirPod.
Yeah, these are the ones that came out, what, September, October?
Yeah,
Something like that?
a little bit earlier than that. They're a replacement for the original AirPod. You know, they've got the longer T design here, but no ear tip. All of these have ear tips that actually seal in your ear with a little silicone tip, which is a big deal when it comes to, you know, wireless buds. So even though these are closest in price to the Galaxy Buds Plus, I don't really feel like they're part of the conversation. So we're just going to remove them and set them over here. Out they go. Then you got your AirPods Pro, which are the super popular ones that just came out, smaller little T. Active noise canceling built into these guys, and you're going to spend $250 to get them, so quite a bit more expensive than the $150 Galaxy Buds Plus. However, what these guys have going on that none of these others can claim, and this was the big news, 11-hour battery life.
Which is huge.
From the time you pull them out of the case till the time you got to slap them back in, 11 hours, which is going to get you through most flights, you know, unless you're headed from the West Coast to deep Asia, in which case you might have to, you know, charge them. But guess what? They'll charge for just 3 minutes and give you an hour of playback time. So.
Wow.
Also, there's 11 hours worth of charge in the case, too. So 22 total hours before you got to charge the case up and all that. But, I mean, at $150 with battery life like that, that's kind of a big deal. Also, as you can see, they're compact. They're very, very light. You barely even know that they're in your ear, and they don't call a ton of attention to themselves. The good news is there are 3 other colorways. Black is one of them. I think there's sort of a cream, and then there's a red.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, they kind of just, they didn't say much about the colors yesterday.
Yeah, it was very quick.
It was very, very quick. But they're super, super comfortable, and, you know, they last a long time. And I'm impressed with what Samsung managed to come out. You know, they kind of bridge a gap. Here's your $85 big guys that, you know, don't have the kind of battery life, but kind of have noise canceling.
I was going to say, do we know what the battery life is on those?
Like it's about 4 hours.
Yeah.
That's kind of the standard, is you're going to be somewhere between 4 and 5 hours, and then you got to stick them in the case and charge them some more. And then with the AirPods Pro, again, 4.5 hours at best, but they have active noise canceling, and you can wear them on a plane, and they sound fantastic. In fact, you know those Sony over-ear noise canceling headphones that we're always going on and on and on
that
and on
we always
about.
talk about, yeah.
I swapped those out for the AirPods Pro on my recent flight down to and back from Miami, and honestly, they were just as good in the noise canceling department. And the cool thing was, I could lay my head on the side of the plane, and they didn't get in the way. You know what I mean? So I had the noise canceling and the music going on, and actually got a nap in, which I never do on a plane.
That's a pretty big statement, the fact that these equal that for those Sony headphones.
Yeah, so I mean, 250 versus 300 to 400 for the Sonys. I think that's notable.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like they're charging too much for the AirPods Pro, and you can actually get them for a little less than that right now. But the reason I bring these guys up is, again, these guys kind of sit in the middle. They're smaller, they're more compact, and they have way better battery life. Mm-hmm. You've got the larger Echo Buds that do have some kind of an it's like quasi noise canceling, right?
Yeah.
It's Bose technology. It's not the full-on deal, but they do seal out a little bit more noise. And then you've got the full-on, hey, I'm a pro traveler. I'm on planes all the time, and I'm constantly talking on the phone. That's where the AirPod Pros come in. So I really think that Samsung did a smart thing. The sound quality is okay. It's
that's what I wanted to ask.
okay. It's not as good as the AirPods Pro. It's about on the same level as the Amazon Echo Buds, and I think it's going to be fine for a lot of people. But mostly because of the comfortable fit and that long battery life, they're super practical. I think people are going to eat these up, and also. You know what happens is you go into the store, you're going to buy a new phone. Chances are they're going to have these guys bundled in some way, or they're going to give you like a credit on the phone purchase if you buy an accessory, and then you can kind of get them for free, sort of. That'll eventually happen. So I think they're going to be extremely popular.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they bundle it with the new S20 or something like that, which probably could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, will happen with those. So taking a look here, I just want to kind of
Yeah,
these.
nab
Like
'em.
you said, they are very light. They actually have a kind of cool design.
They do. They have
there's
a little sports fin. Oh, that's the other thing I want to mention. They stay in very well.
Yeah.
Even though they are light and they don't, you don't have to jam them into your ear, and they don't have something that's like going over your ear to kind of hold it in. Like the Power Beats Pro kind of do that, right?
Right.
They do sit very well. They don't have particularly great water protection.
that was what I was going to ask, because I would think about these. Is this something that you could go work out in, or is this something you go running in? Or?
So the technical number is IPX2. You can go look at that. It's like the least amount of protection you can have. But I don't think that people are going to have a problem with sweat getting inside them and causing a huge problem. They say they can take a splash or a misting and they'll be okay. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely use these to work out. There is no, and this is true of all four that we had up here, there's no kind of fitness tracking involved.
Okay.
We do see like the Jabra Elite Active 65T will do your pulse. And work with an app to try kind of track your training and your activity while you're working out or on a long bike ride or whatever. None of these really do that. They're not using any biometric data that they're gathering by being in your ear. It's just a simple, you want to listen to music, you want to listen to podcasts, you're a commuter, you don't want to have big bulky headphones. $150, man.
Yeah.
What can I say? I think that's a pretty solid product. Sits right in the middle of all these other guys with the best battery life that you can get right now, which they're going to lean on pretty hard.
Was that just because of that? Well, I know that we need to get to a break, but is that because of the new chips?
I'm not sure exactly what they did to change it. I don't think they put a much bigger battery in it because they're certainly not bigger buds.
Right.
And they're still nice and light. It could be that the Bluetooth Low Energy chip that they've got in there, they've got it, they reduced some of the bass response maybe a little bit so it wasn't so power hungry. I'm not sure exactly how they got there because they went from like 5 or 6 hours to 11 hours. They more than doubled the battery life with these. So they figured it out somehow, and they work very well. So I think if you're wondering about, hey, what's the right earbud for me, unless you're on a plane constantly or in a really loud construction zone, they're a great option. Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I know we've got some comparison stuff that's up online too at digitaltrends.com, so people can take a look if you're curious to dig into these a little bit more and find out some more info. We've got that all there. And Caleb, as always, thank you.
You're welcome.
For joining us. And
Absolutely.
there it is right there. So we've got more coming up, though. We need to get to a break. And don't forget, you can see Caleb later on today for Trends with Benefits, a Roundtable Tech podcast at 2:30 p.m. Pacific. Hit the subscribe button. All right, coming up next, we're going to be talking about augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. So that is all going to be happening. We've got David Zing, the founder and CEO of Plot, to talk about their platform. All that's coming up next. So stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, whatever platform you're watching on. Get the notifications when we go live and join the conversations we get to have about technology. And certainly something that I've talked about here before that I'm a big fan of, and that is virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. We're going to discuss kind of the whole gamut of that right now. And to do so, joining us, we have David Zing, who's the founder and CEO of Plot. Thanks so much for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I love talking about these topics, and I think everybody kind of has a general idea of, virtual reality's been out there enough now. Augmented reality, they're starting to understand, but what about mixed reality, like XR? Can you give us your definition of what that is?
Yeah, that's a great question. For us, VR is more immersive. The user is completely in the digital world. AR blends the two together. So you have digital and the real world together, but it's more on a digital device, is what you see. For us, extended reality or XR is more about bringing it together, but instead of just visualizing it on a digital space, actually have a counterpoint in the real world. So think about it as having a physical manifestation of what you see in the real world and how to make the change.
And that's a great definition too, because when you're talking about explaining this to everybody, I think that people are starting to get some of the advantages of this kind of stuff. And I want to actually talk about that, some use cases. What are some great use cases that you're seeing with this technology as it's being developed?
So fundamentally, we don't believe in what you see and where you actually surround yourself in have to be two separate things. And one of the segments that we apply that directly is in the DIY home space. So when we talk to the DIYers and we say, hey, have you ever gone kitchens with Instagram and like what you saw, and then have you ever tried to replicate that in your own home? Of the people that said, I thought about it but never did it, or I did it but I just haven't done it again. Over 80% of the people who said no to that, it was because dimensionality was too hard, or it became too difficult to measure, to place. What they saw wasn't really what they actually got. And that's what we're really applying to in terms of we let the users see what they want to see, design everything with scale and context, but then we have hardware that actually take them to the precise spots to actually make that change. So if you want to put up some cabinets, some shelves, a gallery wall in your home, not only can you design it, but we actually take you to where you have to put the hole, drill the nail to actually replicate your design to life.
Wow, so that's a perfect representation, I guess, of somebody who's at home wondering, like, how could I actually use that? But being able to design, being able to see what you want to see. And for this technology that you're developing, I know you won a bunch of innovation awards at CES, which congratulations. And
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to talk to that too, and kind of talk about what some of those awards mean and what this tech is that you're bringing forward that's so forward thinking.
Well, I think it goes back to that fundamental aspect of it. Right now, what we see on a device is a lot different than how we actually have the real world. And instead of saying, let's make more of what we see, what we do is more about once you see something, let's bring it back out into the real world for you. And I think fundamentally, there's always an element of, I want to change my space. I want to see something, but then I actually want to have it. And for us, is that we're connected to. So it's no longer, hey, I saw these things, but I can never have it in real life, but more so, here's my imagination of what you could be, and have devices that actually help you, guide you to actually make the changes. And I think that's something that speaks to everybody, where we all thought, this would be a little bit better here. I saw something that was really cool. I wish you would have been like that in my home. For us, we just connected two together. We're that bridge.
And talking about some of the different devices, what are some examples of devices that people can use that would utilize mixed reality at home?
The way we do it is off the phone platform right now, so iOS and Android. But we have a indoor device for the home, and we also have an outdoor device. more for backyard work or anything that's exterior based. But they all work off the same platform. Whereas you capture the real world, bring it into the virtual, design everything with scale and context. And once it's done, you set the coordinates to these devices, and they physically take you to every point in the real world to make a change.
So, and we're referencing, a lot of DIY projects right there. Certainly, this could be a huge advantage if you can bring that into that virtual world, be able to design in it, be able to see what works and what doesn't. Expanding on that, though, kind of extrapolating with the technology, do you see this being utilized in other use cases going forward?
Well, two elements that we're actually expanding into that right now is large-scale construction. 40% of a job site is actually spent on measurement. So we replicate what we do for the home for that. We eliminate the measurements and calculations. But other part that we really help and we're very excited about is with retail. So when we partner with a retailer, from their perspective, not only can you see on their site the design that you like, you can overlay it in your own home, see how it is. But then once you purchase it, you put it together, our device actually help you replicate the design that you saw on the retailer site. So IKEA, Wayfair, Macy's, Amazon, Target, they all have AR apps that let you visualize. But after you build those furniture, after you build those products, they're in front of you, they're at your feet. We basically extend that instruction manual and says, not only do you see what you like, after you purchase it, we help you replicate the design that you saw by helping you take you to exactly where I can put it up. So that directly helps with the conversion.
Yeah, so it's walking through that entire process of, I want to see what this looks like, all the way to actually purchasing something and getting it into your home.
And then all the way taking it to after you purchase it, we help you put into the exact spot on your wall or on the ground where you would like it.
Using this, obviously you probably use this technology in your own home to do some of these things, I would imagine. And having access to this, what's the most exciting thing you've been able to design and use using your own platform?
Well, that's a great question. And that's where a lot of this started from. Me and everybody else in the office, we're very avid DIYers, but we're also terrible, terrible DIYers. So we had before and after pictures, but the after looked worse than the before. And part of that, it kind of spurred us on. So what made it so difficult? What's the part that was not fun? And then that's where we came up with our devices. We built a lot of stuff for, personally, I built a lot of stuff for my kids. Big playground, a big playroom downstairs as well. And one of my favorite part is that as I'm traveling a lot, if I'm designing something or my wife's designing something, we can share the design back and forth and say, well, maybe move it here, maybe move it here. And once we come to a consensus, one of us not traveling can actually execute. So a big part of it is we're just doing stuff around the house, but we can be away and still be able to communicate and share the design and share the process.
Well, David, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here, to talk about this and just kind of walk through what you've created and just how exciting it is talking about this platform and just the possibilities of this. For everybody at home who wants to utilize the software, where should I direct them to?
Follow us on social, #Let's Plot. And we're also a finalist at South by Southwest for XR. So we will be in Austin. And if you're in the area, we'd love to show our extended reality platform to you.
Nice. Yeah, Digital Trends will be down there, so we'll get a hold of you and set something like that up. Thanks so much, David. I appreciate you being here on Digital Trends Live.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and so again, talking about augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, how it's actually changing different things at home. Imagine that, being able to design something, go all the way through that process of getting it into your home and putting it up. It's really it's game-changing tech. We've got more to talk about, though. I know I need to get to a break. We've got more interviews coming up. We've got real news, actually, today as well, and we've got some more tech headlines that we're going to talk about next. So stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Well, hello. Thanks for joining us. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Appreciate everybody who joins in the show every single day. We've got some more interviews coming up. We've got real news coming up. But right now, let's talk about some tech headlines. And this could be game-changing for you. Are you tired of the job that you're working in right now? Want something a little more exciting? Well, NASA is now taking applications to be an astronaut, to go to the moon. Yes, that is correct. You heard me. They are taking applications. And there's some slight qualifications that you need to have, but nonetheless, you can publicly apply right now. So here's what's happening. NASA is getting ready for their big push for the Artemis missions, which are going to be happening going forward here in the next few years. In about 5 years, they want to send somebody to the moon. And then they want to continue doing that to where we're constantly going to the moon. They want to go from beyond that. This is even the program that's eventually going to take NASA astronauts to Mars. So they need a lot of people. And right now, they need to start hiring some future space travelers and explorers to join their ranks. Now, they're not going to hire a ton of them, but the applications are open to the public. So here's what they're looking for. This is what they said in their statement. They need to launch American astronauts this year on American rockets from American soil to the ISS with an eye toward the moon and Mars. And they're taking applications from March 2nd through March 31st, so you have some time to get your space resume together. There's some things that they are looking for, though, just to warn you. Win this. They would like a master's degree in a STEM field from an accredited institution, not one you bought online. They need 2 years of work toward a PhD program in related science, technology, engineering, or math field, a completed Doctor of Medicine or Doctor of Osteopathic medicine degree. These are some different things that they can actually accept in this. So you need at least one of those. Completion of a nationally recognized test pilot school program by June 2021. So these are some of the different requirements that they're looking for. But if you can get all those together, then you could be one of the next astronauts going to the moon even. And I'm going to try to get my doctorate by March 2nd. I'm going to be working overtime to try to get that done. And we'll take DT Live to space. That's really what the goal is that we're working on right here. But this is something, though, where they're expecting thousands of applicants. They're asking you to check your qualifications before you apply, but they're going to get thousands of applicants. They did this the last time. It was several years ago, and they did receive, I believe it was actually in the 90s, and they received about 50,000 applicants. So they're expecting probably somewhere around that. But it just goes to show, as more space exploration does open up, whether it's NASA, whether it's SpaceX, whether it's Boeing or Blue Origin or any other number of different programs, they are going to have the need for more people. So it is going to open it up to more possibilities. Will I be up there? That's the big question that everybody's asking. I don't know yet. We have to wait to see, but I'll certainly give it my best shot. And so I thank everybody for all the support on that. But nonetheless, go there to digitaltrends.com. You can follow along with the links to apply to be a NASA astronaut. All right, continuing on here with our trending headlines and news. Let's talk about a couple other things. Let's talk about this. There's another competition going on, and that is to design a city-state on Mars. This is the second time this has happened, and it's from an organization called the Mars Society. So the Mars Society is actually a group of engineers. It's been around for a long time. It's a group of engineers, a group of different enthusiasts of Mars since 1998. It was established by Dr. Robert Zubrin. And they work to educate the public, the media, and the government on the benefits of exploring Mars. So they're a Mars advocacy group, I guess you could say. And part of what they want to do is get this thinking going about how we're going to live up there. And so they have some parameters for this competition. It's open, again, to the public. So these are two different things now that you can apply for. But looking at what they're talking about as far as the competition is concerned. So they're announcing this competition that's going to be the best design plan of a Mars city-state of 1 million people. So they're thinking big. And this kind of goes along the lines of what Elon Musk said, where he said he could launch 1,000 rockets and get 1 million people to Mars by 2050 for his own Elon City or whatever he's going to call it, Muskville. But the way this is working is there's going to be a prize of $10,000 for first place for the best city-state design, $5,000 for second, $2,500 for third, $1,000 for fourth, $500 for fifth. And the top 20 papers will be published in a new book called Mars City-States, New Societies for a New World. Now, they did this last year as well, and we've got some examples of what the winning city was from last year. And this came from an MIT group with their Star City, I believe is what they're calling it. So they actually won last year, and there's some great images that are of that and showcasing what their design looked like. And there's also some different pictures of what happened last year as well. So again, this is for the Mars Society. This is their competition, and what they want is to get out there as far as people designing their own Mars city states. So you can apply for that at themars.society.com. All right, continue on here. Let's go on. We've got some more information about that at digitaltrends.com. Let's go to one final thing here, and this is kind of a celebration of the Voyager spacecraft. And the reason is there has been a modern makeover of that very famous pale blue dot image. Now, this is the iconic image that the Voyager took when it was out in space, and where actually Carl Sagan convinced NASA to spin it around and take a picture back at Earth. And it's one of those ones where it's, puts us in place in the solar system where you're looking at this pale blue dot, and it's just a tiny, tiny representation of it. And see, there we go. It's right there. So taking a look, that tiny little dot in the middle of the screen, might even be hard to see on your phone. That's Earth. That just shows how small we are. And Carl Sagan, of course, has that very famous speech where he's like, everyone that's ever lived or died ever in the history of humanity was on that tiny little dot. And it just shows we're a very, very small thing in the universe, and it kind of opens up that wonder of just how big it is. But the Voyager craft itself, just to give you a little bit of detail on that, launched September 5th, 1977. So that's the Voyager 1, actually launched after Voyager 2. But right now, Voyager 1 has been operating for 42 years, 5 months, 7 days, as of February 13th, 2020, and it is the furthest human-made object away from us. So this is as far as anything's gone. It's in interstellar space right now, and it's still functioning. It still sends back some data, and they're expecting it to maybe last for, well, they don't know for sure. It's already gone further than they thought, but they're expecting it to last maybe until 2025, and then that's when they think everything will start breaking down. But really cool stuff. That's the one with the 12-inch gold-plated copper disc, the gold record that has all kinds of amazing things on it, the golden record. But lots to follow up on there. I know we need to get to a break, but I just want to bring people up to date with that. It's always fascinating to see that pale blue dot image, and now with the remade version with modern technology, just kind of brightens it up just a little bit more. All right, we need to get to a break. We've got a lot coming up here on Digital Trends Live, and I do appreciate everybody comes along on the ride for us. We have real news, which is going to be up here in just a little bit. But next, we're going to talk about utilizing technology to not only track weather, but can we utilize this technology to track viruses? Certainly a big topic here today. We're talking about influenza with this, but it's an interesting use of tech. And to do so, we've got Sherry Backstein is going to be joining us from IBM. So that's coming up next. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Appreciate everybody joining the show wherever you're watching or whenever you're watching. We appreciate it. You can always share it online. And one of the things we're going to talk about right now is artificial intelligence and the different ways that it's being utilized to help us. It's always fascinating to see how this very powerful tool can be used and what we can do with all of this data. And certainly IBM's at the forefront of utilizing AI. And to talk about this right now, we've got Sherry Backstein, who's the Vice President and Global Head of Consumer Business for IBM, to talk about the Weather Company and more. Sherry, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for having me.
I was really fascinated when reading about what we were going to be discussing today, and I want to kind of share this with everybody else, talking about using, I guess, maybe we should explain to everybody how the Weather Company is involved here and what exactly we are doing with that, and then extrapolate from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So IBM and the Weather Company, what we have done is we are using AI to bring a better connection between weather and health. We know that there has always been that connection there, and that consumers certainly believe there's a connection in how weather can impact their health symptoms. So what we're doing is bringing AI to that to now be predictive, so we can actually help people make decisions as it relates to managing some of those symptoms.
And that's, to put it into context, you're right. I mean, we always, I guess you always have the worry, like if it's cold outside, you're going to get the flu, or it's going to be, if it's wet outside, put on your coat. But there actually is, data that kind of backs that up to go along with it. So talking about, what you're able to do with the Weather Company as far as predictive technology and understanding what weather patterns are, how does that exactly scientifically relate to what's going on with flus?
Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously the obvious connections between weather and health, but let me give you an example with a product that we just put out around flu. So we are using our Watson AI technology to look at flu data, to look at demographic data, to pull in health records to order to predict the risk of flu in areas down to a zip code level. And this prediction goes out 15 days because our forecast goes out 15 days. And we've seen some amazing correlations between that. And then we've been able to validate that with information that's coming from the CDC. So we've been able to give everybody, since October when the product launched on our consumer applications, a reason to look at 15 days out to see if flu is trending in their area. And what's important about that is then they can make decisions. Do they need to go get a flu shot if that's the right decision for them? Do they need to make sure they're washing their hands more? Do they need to make sure that they are maybe spending more time outdoors as well? So it's really a great product. Flu is the start of it. We're moving on to other illnesses as well, but we've seen really great success in our capabilities to predict that risk.
Which is huge, and I think sometimes a lot of people discount how much of an impact the flu really has, especially to populations who are more vulnerable to it. And we're talking about influenza A and B, is that correct?
That's right. It doesn't matter the strand of it. We certainly look at the strand, and certainly we're seeing strand B predominantly this flu season. And it's been a very bad flu season. If you look at the data coming out of the CDC, there's been over 10 million visits to doctors. They're closing in between 10 and 30,000 deaths actually related to flu already this year. So it definitely is a big problem that we're seeing in the United States year after year. And so being able to predict this 2 weeks out, at least the risk of that can help people make decisions to help keep them safe.
Yeah, I mean, that's tremendous alone. And just, highlighting how many people have been, visiting the doctor, and then also just those deaths alone. It's one of those things where people just don't think about how important that is. So looking at it 15 days out, and you mentioned that you're taking data from the CDC and probably a lot of different sources. Can I talk just a little bit about the AI? Like, how are you able to, I guess, how it's kind of analyzing all of that and what it's making its predictions on?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's taking all these data sources. Of course, AI learns over time, right? So you're looking at a period of historical data. So we have all this weather historical data. You're looking at years of CDC historical data. That helps to put the algorithm in place and that model in place, and then you run those tests against that. So what we've been able to do is not only put our predictions out since October, but we've been able to go back and validate those predictions based on the CDC information. The CDC information is great, but it's dependent on people going to the doctor, reporting those visits. So it's actually in arrears. It's about 1 to 2 weeks later. So the way we can use AI is, again, to make it predictive. So how do we take all of that data using machine learning and then come out this predictive algorithm? So it's a really great step forward in us helping to see that connection between weather and health, and then helping people to manage those symptoms.
Now, you mentioned that you can predict the 15 days out because that's where the weather is going, but then also going back and validating all that data. So that's even better data that I'm sure you can feed into the algorithm as it learns and goes forward. Looking at that, do you think there's a way that you'd be able to predict further out, or even with other things? You mentioned that some other viruses or other, I'm not sure what all it would be predicting, but things other than influenza. Maybe you can speak to both of those points.
Yeah, sure. Over time, we will be able to do a little bit more seasonality. Flu is interesting though, because it really depends on that strand that's out and that's really active in that season. But human behavior is what it is, and demographics and the population density of areas, those things stay constant. So that really helps with that. So eventually we hope to get out that we can maybe go out a month in advance and certainly see where those trends will take us. This is the first year the product's out, but it will improve over time. The AI will enable us to do that over time and to learn more over time. And so that's really important. We're looking at expanding this to allergies. We're looking at also expanding this into breathing and some other ailments that we're seeing that our customers that use our weather applications come to us for. And we're trying to reduce the cognitive load on those users and trying to figure it out themselves. We're actually trying to help them, give them the information that they're looking for.
That's great. That's a great idea. Yeah, allergies and probably pollution, I'm sure, are different things that you could probably that would factor into that. Going back to the flu side of things, so you mentioned you're able to say if there's a high risk for flu, but what do people do if they get a warning saying, hey, there's a high risk of flu? What are steps that they can take to help protect themselves from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a misconception that you have to get the flu shot at the beginning of the season or else it's not viable, and that's not necessarily true. What we've seen in our applications is we also provide users an ability to see where they could go get their flu shots. And so the amount of traffic that we've sent to those establishments and people actually taking action and looking up where they could get flu shots is really relevant in saying that this product is helping people make those decisions. So that's what's really the value behind the whole product and why we created it. It goes along with our whole mission around weather is to help people make those decisions.
Wow. I mean, what a great use of artificial intelligence, to help people live healthier and avoid some of these risks. I really appreciate you joining us here to talk about this. Yeah. It's really fascinating seeing how AI is being used, but I want to let everybody know too, just to reiterate how they can utilize this tool. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so absolutely. You can go onto our apps. So download the Weather Channel app either through the iOS or Android store. And the risk of flu will be on those applications. And then allergies, like I said, will also be available not only in the apps, but on the website coming out in March.
Wow. Well, Sherry, thank you so much for joining us here on the show to talk about this. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. All right, so again, talking about great uses of tech here today. I mean, this has been some great guests and really walking through that and how tech can help change your life. And that is certainly another application of that. All right, we've got more though coming up. We've got real news with Riley Wynn and Aaron Keeney. So that is going to be coming up next. We'll be airing that. So stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
Hi, I'm Aaron Keeney.
And I'm Riley Wynn.
And this is Real News, the show that helps you decide what movies deserve your money at the box office this weekend. First up, an iconic video game character speeds onto the big screen in this live-action adventure. Here's a look at Sonic the Hedgehog.
I'm Sonic, a little ball of super energy in an extremely handsome package. On my planet, people were always after my powers, so I came to yours. It gets a little lonely, but that's okay. I am living my best life on Earth. Ow! At the plate, Sonic! At the pitcher's mound, also Sonic! Ugh, I can't with that guy.
Sonic the Hedgehog is an adaptation of Sega's blockbuster video game of the same name. And the movie stays true to the bright blue hedgehog's, character and design. So after Sonic accidentally causes this massive power outage on Earth, the government hires an evil scientist and inventor, Dr. Robotnik, to hunt Sonic down and use his extraordinary powers for world domination. Sonic joins forces with a nice small-town sheriff who quickly becomes his human best friend. The police officer does all he can to help the hedgehog navigate, the complexities of life on Earth. Jim Carrey is back on the big screen as the supervillain, Dr. Robotnik, with an incredible mustache, I might add.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the one and only Jim Carrey, really do what he does best here. He is born to play this role, and we haven't really seen him like this, in a while. He also has a 9-year-old grandson. Did you know this? And he said, yeah, as soon as he got the role in this film, the two of them played the video game over and over again for research. Isn't that so fun? They became gaming buddies.
I mean, there's got to be nothing cooler than, watching your grandpa play a character in a video game that you love playing. The film also stars comedian Ben Schwartz. You may remember him from Parks and Rec. He was John Ralphio. He's the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. Then we have James Marsden. He is Sheriff Tom, the straight-laced man, and all of this, computer animated chaos that's going on around him. And then we have Tika Sumpter, who plays his wife. And she actually said that, she used to play the video game as a kid, so this was really a dream come true for her.
Sony secured the film rights to this entire franchise back in 2013, and this looks to be the first episode in a planned series for them. They shot this back in 2018 in and around Vancouver, British Columbia. So this is the feature directorial debut for Jeff Fowler. He has worked for many years in visual effects for both TV and film, and he was even Oscar nominated for one of his animated shorts, some years ago. So we know he clearly takes the visual effects of these films seriously. But when they first released images of Sonic, the fan outcry was loud and clear. You probably remember this. They did not like it at all. The fans were not liking this. Social media lit up, mocking the character design, but the director saw all of this, and he promised to fix it, and fix it fast. So they went back to the drawing board, the CGI drawing board, and it pushed the release date back several months. But apparently the retooling that they did, on Sonic is going over much better with audiences. But like always, we're just gonna have to see how fans respond, to the final version.
When that first trailer came out, Sonic looked nothing like the hedgehog we grew up loving. The people who are going to go see this movie are the people who played the game as a kid. They're gonna take their now kids with them, and they're gonna share that, childhood memory together. Also, Naoto Oshima, the original designer of Sonic, when he first saw the first look, he did not like the way it looked. So if the fans don't like it and the guy who created the character don't like it, probably should change it, and we're glad they did.
Yeah, I think the music will be interesting in this one too. It's from the composer of Deadpool and Tomb Raider. If you want to see Sonic the Hedgehog, it comes to theaters February 14th. Next up, we head to a tropical resort in this horror movie take on a TV classic. Here's a sneak peek at Fantasy Island.
Oh my God, that's really her.
Rourke, this is not what I meant.
What the hell is this place?
People die here.
The island's twisting what we asked for.
We weren't brought here to have our own fantasies.
I want it, I got it. I want it.
We were brought here to be a part of someone else.
I got it, I want it.
Fantasy Island takes us to a luxurious and very remote tropical resort where the enigmatic Mr. Rourke makes the secret dreams of his lucky guests come true. But these granted wishes come at a huge price, and when the fantasies turn into nightmares, chaos ensues on the island. And the guests have to solve the island's mystery in order to escape with their lives. The film stars Lucy Hale from Pretty Little Liars, Maggie Q from Nikita, Ryan Hansen, and Portia Doubleday as some of the visitors to the island, with Michael Pena in a role more serious than we're used to seeing him in, as he is the mysterious Mr. Rourke.
Yeah, I really like this casting of Michael Pena as Mr. Rourke. I mean, how do you come close to Ricardo Montalban? But he is solid in everything that he does, so he'll be good. This is from Sony Pictures and Blumhouse Productions. They're the famous production house known for their low-budget horror films, like the Paranormal Activity series, the film Get Out, The Purge, the Halloween remake. You probably do not like this production company.
No, I don't.
As
No,
I'm
I do
saying
not.
this. So they know what they are doing to scare audiences. Jeff Wadlow is directing here. We know him from Truth or Dare and the film Kick-Ass 2. He co-wrote the film with Jillian Jacobs. She acted in Netflix's series Love and also from Community. The original television show aired from 1977 to 1984, and it was kind of one of the weirder dramas on the airwaves at the time. It wasn't as kind of sweet as The Love Boat, and it had much darker storylines, but this adaptation is significantly more frightening. You can see from the trailer, this 2020 take is infused with a lot more horror. I see your eyes getting big with that.
This movie looks super freaky. I know it's gonna have a bunch of stuff that jumps out, scares you, thrills you.
Yeah, so I am not the biggest horror movie fan. I mean, I'm not as big of a scaredy cat as you, but I do like the premise of this one, and I'm going there for the nostalgia because I really liked the show. You can see Fantasy Island in theaters February 14th. Finally, if you want something with a little less horror and a lot more romance this Valentine's Day, this would be the film for you. Let's take a look at the photograph.
I'm terrible at first dates. I just don't know whether to be vulnerable, aloof, funny.
Why don't you just be yourself?
What?
I'm wondering if it's not too early in the night to kiss you.
It wasn't too early.
Oh, I see.
He's in love. This written all over your face. You look so sappy, it's embarrassing.
Wanna believe what you say.
The photograph follows the story of May, a woman whose famous photographer mother has just died unexpectedly, leaving her estranged daughter with questions about her life. When May finds a photograph tucked away in a safe deposit box, she soon finds herself diving into her mother's early life before having a child. May's investigation eventually leads to a romance with a rising journalist. And you know, Aaron, with this, we're watching two love stories grow. So we're watching May's mother past unfold in the 1980s in New Orleans, and then May's life unfolding in the present day. The film stars Issa Rae from HBO's Insecure as May, and then we have actor and rapper Lakeith Stanfield, and you may know him from FX's Atlanta.
Issa Rae and her HBO show Insecure has been incredibly successful, and she's now just starting to move into the film world a bit more, which is fun to see. She said she was drawn to this film because stories about Black love started to disappear, and she wanted to be part of what she hopes is a resurgence of these kinds of stories. Canadian director Stella Meggy is at the helm for this. She directed some episodes of the show Insecure and also the TV show Grownish, and she also wrote the screenplay for this. She worked with Issa Rae on Insecure and said, she really got to know her kind of offset, and she just knew that she would bring the right amount of warmth to this kind of cold and grieving character. She was really inspired by films like Love and Basketball, that was back in the year 2000. And Meggy says there is this, unique relationship with mothers and daughters that she really wanted to write about. And I think a lot of people can relate to this kind of often complicated dynamic. And for anyone who has lost their mom, you know too that you learn a lot about their life after they die. There's a lot of discovery in death, and I think this film shows how beautiful and really healing that can be.
Lakeith Stanfield has so much range and has been in a ton of movies over the last couple of years. I'm very interested to see him play this romantic lead because we haven't seen him in a role like this before.
I like these stories of people trying to uncover part of their past. I can certainly relate to this with trying to piece some of your history together from a photograph. And Issa Rae is one of my favorite actors out there right now. I love the show Insecure. And, female directors. I'm always supporting female directors, so I am going to see this. The photograph is in theaters this Valentine's weekend.
If you're going to see one movie this weekend, make it Sonic the Hedgehog. You can get your tickets at Fandango.
Thanks for watching Real News. We'll see you right here next week.
And welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Going to be honest, I'm pretty sure I owe Erin Keeney $5, so I'm calling myself out on that. I know I made the bet last week when she was here. I got 10 out of 24 right on my Oscar predictions, and I'm gonna guess she did a little bit better than that. So Erin, I will have your $5. Please don't send anybody after me. All right, that's it for today's show. Tomorrow on Digital Trends Live, though, we'll have a bit of a bittersweet moment. Our own Ryan Juanita is going to be moving on from digital trends into another career in the tech world, so it'll be our last edition of Between the Streams in its current form. But before he leaves, we'll be covering what streaming content you should be watching this weekend. It will also be Friday, which means we'll have another segment of Tech Briefs with Flipboard technology editor Ken Young and the top tech stories of the week. Inevitably, we'll talk about MWC being canceled and what that means for the tech community at large, plus other things. And we've got C.R. Pressler, who'll be on with Work Wife, and as it's Valentine's Day, we'll be discussing how to balance work and your love life. It's going to be a very special episode. Tune in at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, wherever you consume content. And as a quick note, we have a brand new YouTube channel dedicated to Digital Trends Live. So if you're used to watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our new channel to get notified when we go live. And for Digital Trends, I'm Greg Nibbler, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Thanks for all the great questions.